But
I'm going to do an unveiling, taking off the pants.
all right, we are up on. See if Facebook started. Hey,
Yeah.
we're up on everything.
All right, we're live. It's getting going here. All right, welcome to our weekly Platinum Hour live chat. Two guys and
On YouTube.
I'm Mike. This is our weekly Q&A session, our Ask Us Anything hour. And typically, we get questions about 034 Motorsport products and services. We're happy to discuss that. It's also fun when we get questions about other things. We're always happy to talk about other stuff as well. I'm Javad Shadzi, the CEO of 034 Motorsport. And this is Nate Stewart, our Director of Engineering and all things software and tuning and printer repairs.
First question, has you written?
Yeah, I was running Cat 5 cable last week too. So.
Yeah, very good at running Cat 5 cable. And we take a no BS approach. We like to just tackle concepts head on. Hopefully one thing you'll notice about 034 Motorsport if you're new is that we really don't push or prescribe snake oil or we do marketing, but we don't have dumb, janky, kitschy, clickbaity, just silly marketing concepts to try to push products or trick customers. Or everything we do is technical. We like to believe that form follows function, and we do everything for a reason. And so if you go to any of our product pages on our website, you will read about why we made the product, what it does, what its purpose is, why it does what it does. And so that's why we're here to discuss things openly. And something that I've been seeing a lot over the last few months, the feedback that we've been getting that I've seen like in YouTube comments and things like that is, customers are appreciating our very direct and very open way we talk about our products and services. We give deep levels of insight into what we're doing, why we're doing it. We even talk about issues and problems.
Yeah, it's not all just the good stuff.
We've even been trolled live on the air several times and been attacked and accused of lying and things like that. And then we have upset customers who've been mistreated or haven't been served properly. It happens, and we've discussed that. So we're here to just be very open and just tackle things head on, and there'll be some dad jokes sprinkled in, and probably some light sexual harassment comments. But it happens, All right, let's jump into this. I know there are probably higher priority tune upgrades on your list, but any idea when we'll be able to see a Q7 3.82? I swear, I was literally on the air. This was not me. So a few weeks ago, I mentioned that I was buying a 2018 Q7, passionately referred to as dynamic diff, and so I did buy that car, and we do have a Q7 program brewing, which will be all of our tuning 3.0T tuning options, almost most all of them. I don't know if we'll do full super duper, but
yeah, that's got a really unique intake compared to the other B and C chassis cars.
But I do want to do an intake for it. It's the whole top of the airbox engine cover type thing. If we do that, then the super duper should relatively be a hose. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's just the packaging's so different because now you've got to bend the 180 back to the inlet box on top of the motor.
We'll definitely evaluate it, but certainly, our stage 2 option with dual pulley and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And we're putting our 21-inch wheels on it with +1 tires, springs, sway bars. I don't think we'll do a strut tie bar because it's just really buried behind the motor. It could be a lot of work to install.
Tuning the calibration stuff that should be right along with our CREC.
It's CREC.
So it's a CMOS 16.21 on that.
As far as when, I mean, I'd like to have this stuff tomorrow, but it helps when you actually are daily driving the car.
Yep.
But definitely this year, this spring summer, you'll see stuff rolling out. Some of the hardware products like springs and sway bars will be later this year, I'm sure, because those products take a while to develop. It's a really great car. It's huge, but it drives great. It handles great. It actually gets decent mileage. I think I probably average, I don't know, 15 to 18 miles a gallon.
With your foot, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's really good.
Those are not hypermiling miles.
No, that's just normal like around town driving. And then if I've been on the freeway, I've been able to get like low 20s, average over longer stretches. So, yeah, and then great room inside, really great tech package, really fun car. So, and I think it's a track that this isn't going to be a big market for us, but I don't think anyone else is doing anything for these cars. So we'll have a captured audience, and hopefully we can win over the hearts and minds of all the Q7 owners who are interested in modifications. And honestly, I think once we're running like
10s.
Definitely once we're running 11s with this car and running some pretty furious lap times, I think maybe people would go out and buy these because they're a pretty good deal. I mean, I think you could get into one of these for like 35 to 40.
It's a lot of car for the money.
Yeah.
If you got family or towing or cargo needs.
35 grand for sure. It's got great towing capacity. So, anyways, I always resisted tuning SUVs for years and years and years, and now, I mean, Nick definitely didn't hurt with his Milfmobile, but yeah, no, the SUVs have been Audi's top selling models for years now, so it's no surprise, and you don't have to worry about potholes or curbs or Priuses. You can just drive wherever you want.
Right all over them.
Yeah. B9A4 tuning questions. We don't have a time frame on that. It is in the mix of products we're evaluating, and it's definitely like on the list of tunes we're going to release.
Yep.
Right now, it's a B9 3.0 T world, and there's B8s in there. B8 3.0 T's in there as well. So yeah, I mean we have to make the right choices for the company, and we have to make sure that we're going after the best opportunities.
Yep.
And putting our resources.
Yeah, the question
We have to put our resources.
the question came through too if we're going to be doing different octanes for that when we do release it.
Sure.
Yeah, we absolutely.
We always do. Yeah, no. If you look at all of our tunes on the website, that we have octanes. What would be the best route to go down with the engine mounts on my B9 S4? It's stage 1, 034 at the moment. So we are imminently releasing B9 mounts that fit the A4, and we are these aren't really an upgrade for the S4 though. So we have, yeah. I mean, we're not sure about that yet. We're gonna do some road testing. The advantage would be that they're not fluid filled. They're going to be more durable in the long run. They're not necessarily, they don't resist deflection any more than the stock S4 means. So we're testing that. So it could be soon that an option would fit the car, but a stiffer, much more higher performance options is probably more like 4 or 5 months out. But if the B9A4 mount will fit the S4. We're just not sure how much of an upgrade it is at this time, so we're evaluating that. Any updates on B9.5 TCU Stage 2 release?
I mean, we're working on that. It's going to come down to we need it's a decent enough change that we're working on testing it on a local car is what it comes down to. It's not something we can just roll out without more testing.
Yeah.
So
RS3 surge tank, it's still in sourcing and manufacturing phase. I don't know when.
Yeah, we had the production version on the TTRS at the last track event. So we were
Yeah.
putting some miles on that and some track time on that, and had zero issues with it.
There's some really slick stainless steel lines that are nicely formed, and they have banjos on the ends. I know we're waiting on those to come in, for example. So it's just the manufacturing supply chain delays continue to slow things down.
The ones that are real, or the ones that are imaginary?
The real ones.
The real ones.
Yeah, the ones that we actually deal with.
Yep.
B9 S4 here, interested in stage 1 tune with the TCM tune. It seems that the pops and bangs are a bit too much. Before there wasn't enough. It seems they could be adjusted.
This is always the struggle. It's a.
I think you've probably been reading too much internet, and maybe you need to put the internet down.
Yeah.
There you can turn them on, you can turn them off.
Yeah, the dynamic mode or comfort mode, they'll all that switching still works.
Resounding feedback has been the pops and bangs are great. They're just right. There's a few people who want more. There's a few people that want less. Those are the people that you're probably hearing talk online. I think the happy people are just driving their cars and enjoying it. So no, we don't make adjustable pops and bangs. We won't. We don't offer different files for pops and bangs because each file requires a huge amount of support.
Yeah, we do try. That's not to say we're not going to adjust it if the mass opinion is that it should be one way or another. We just can't offer individual tweaking and adjustments. If everyone or the mass majority determines that, hey, these are too much or too little, then we'll work on making a change, which is what we did. And now it seems like they're in a pretty good place for what everyone wants.
So, and again, if you want them, you turn them on. If you don't want them, you turn them
on.
Well,
and a lot of it is also exhaust specific, or what you're running for an exhaust system. So keep that in mind as well.
Well, and the brain specificities are huge too. From one brain to the next, you get a lot of variation. But I would say, by all means, if you're interested, do it. It's incredible. The feedback from customers has been amazing. Our impressions have been obviously very good, which is why we released that. B9 RS5 ECU tuning update. We're still working on it. It's still going great.
Yep. I don't know what more to say other than it's coming along really well. Where these things, we do our best to try and account for as many of the situations as we can before it's released, as far as temperatures, altitudes, all that kind of thing. So that's kind of where that tune is in process at the moment. So dialing cold starts and getting altitude compensation stuff done. So we're kind of in that land right now, and then we'll start rolling through and getting the octanes up for you guys to flash.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, since that pops and bangs conversation, there have been many responses on YouTube saying they love the current left pop and bang.
Right, and that's the struggle. Is it's very much a personal taste.
Yeah, and you have to qualify the things you read online. Just because someone says they want more pops and bangs doesn't mean you would want that. Or just
less.
Because someone says they want less doesn't mean you would want that. You don't necessarily want what the person is saying. Go on Yelp and read restaurant reviews.
Yeah,
of your favorite restaurant.
I guarantee you can't evaluate the sound of that over any kind of internet, video that you're going to find. You really got to just drive it, see what it's like, and see if you like it.
Yeah, and we have people that want their pops and bangs to tear the space-time continuum, and then there's other people that want it to sound like an electric car.
Stock or less, yeah.
Does a muffler delete make you lose power on a B9 S4?
Muffler?
No. I don't.
I mean, unless you delete it with something terrible and a really poor flowing.
I mean, if you delete it with a block off.
Correct. Yeah, or
I don't know. I don't know what the context of that is.
That's a tough one to answer. But generally, if you delete it with a tube of equal diameter to what's going in and out of it, you should be in good shape.
Yeah. Generally, mufflers on turbo cars specifically, mufflers typically cost power. On normally aspirated cars, that all goes out the window. On normally aspirated cars, if an exhaust system is designed properly, then the exhaust system can actually help scavenge exhaust out of the cylinder head through the various pulses and tuning and resonances in the exhaust. So on an NA car, you could actually screw that up if it's designed properly. You could totally screw it up by modifying any part of the system.
Yeah.
So you would want to replace the entire exhaust with another properly designed but higher flowing exhaust on an NA car. On a turbo car, the turbo turbine wheel and the whole turbo process really absorbs all those pulses and those variations. And so what comes out of the turbo is you just want to evacuate that as freely as possible. And so typically almost always on turbo motors, you just need the biggest exit possible. And no exhaust is always the best, highest power exhaust on a turbo car. But on NA cars, NA motors it will typically make less power without an exhaust.
Yeah, it really depends on how the system is tuned. If it's got a header, if it's got just a terrible manifold.
But sometimes people, when you guys ask these questions, if you can kind of put in there, because I read so and so did this thing.
Yeah, the more background we have to answer, the better.
Otherwise, it's just a really generic.
And this is something we would have said over and over again. Is if someone gives you a hard, line in the sand answer with very minimal information, there's not much you can rely on for that. All of these answers are very nuanced and have, some very specific conditions that need to be around it to answer it one way or the other concretely.
Still a lot of questions.
Oh, yeah.
B9.5 I have 0 through 4 stage 193, but wondering, do you just recommend stock spark plugs or lower heat range? So all of our tunes are designed, for this application, we're designed to work with stock spark plugs. But we have tested and approved the Brisk 2 MOR 10S, which are on our website. It is a lower heat range plug that we're not here to say you're going to make a lot more power with that plug, but due to it being a cooler plug, it can help resist detonation under higher heat or higher load conditions. And they're generally really nice plugs. And, once you kind of get into tuning and you're really pushing your motor harder, sometimes you need to change the plugs more often. So that's a perfectly suitable replacement. Someone's asking about the 2.9 with the mild hybrid setups. We're not currently doing any research on those. They're very, very interesting motors. This is a 48 volt electric turbo that's added to basically the RS5 twin turbo motor. Something we want to look into more, but with everything that's going on, we have not done that yet.
Yep.
2019 B9 S4. I'm between you guys and IE for tuning. What makes the tunes different or yours better performance wise? So just one quick point is, as far as performance goes, we've proven that our tune's faster. We currently hold the world record, which is 4 miles per hour faster in the quarter mile and half a second faster than IE's, with the same modification levels and weight reduction. So nobody has a faster B9 S4 tune in the world right now than we do. And then we've had many customers back up these really fast times. I don't know a lot about IE's tuning. You can go watch our deep dive videos where we go into great detail about our tuning. Again, I think we're way out ahead of everyone else. Take IE out of it. As far as our TCU tuning, as far as our ECU tuning, the performance, the smoothness, the refinements, our integration with TCU and the ECU together, you're just not going to find a better B9 3.0T tune on the market anywhere. And the feedback has been phenomenal. I think there was a poll recently on one of the groups, and we beat every other option on the market, by a substantial margin. I think we got over 50% of the votes easily.
That next question actually follows up nicely with that. It's something we should address more.
Is 0 through 4 Stage 1 proven to be faster than Unitronic Stage 1 despite the higher horsepower?
So
This is for B9 3.0.
Yeah, higher horsepower. I mean, dyno charts are really tough to normalize.
Yeah,
between
you can't say their tune makes higher horsepower. Ours has gone much faster in the quarter mile than theirs. So I don't know how you would say that theirs has more power.
You know, there's companies out there. I know APR is notorious for this. They'll get a stock car in, dyno it on their dyno, and say like, "Oh, the factory numbers are way underrated. Look, it makes 50 more than stock." So they, you know, crank up the stock power numbers, and then all of a sudden their tune numbers make, you know, it looks like they make a bunch more power than everyone else because their base numbers are skewed more than everyone else to start with. So it's dyno numbers are really tough to compare to. We have them up as a reference. We you know, we baseline all of these stock cars. We have some you know, well-developed methods to try and extrapolate to crank power. Thus far, all of the cars we put on our dyno, the extrapolation to crank power makes sense.
Yeah.
We have not dynoed a car that makes, you know, like more wheel horsepower than crank. The corrections we typically apply have lined up really well compared to the factory published numbers. So where APR and some of these other calibrators or you know, tuning firms get their numbers from, I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, so the question is 034 Stage 1 proven to be faster than Unitronic? Yes, it has been proven. How is one tune faster than another? Well, it makes more power. That's about, when you're talking about per hour trap speed, that's a really good indication of power. And I don't think any other tune on the market is even close to ours. I think the closest is 4 miles an hour, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And then the second part of the question says, despite the higher horsepower. Well, if you're referring to one dyno chart on the internet versus another, that's not how horsepower is determined. So the quarter mile acceleration performance is how horsepower is determined. That's why, you know, we have our own dyno facility here. We measure all of our tunes on the dyno, and our dyno charts are smooth and averaged from an aggregate of various samples. Yeah, we don't just take the highest horsepower tune one night at 11 p.m. when it's 33 degrees outside, and we don't put that on our website as how much power these tunes make. So we would actually take the highest and lowest out of the data set, and then we would focus on the aggregate of data that you know falls within the bulk range of what our average customers.
Yeah, we have a pretty obnoxious amount of data sets that we have to go through, and we will normalize and average multiple polls together so that you get you know, the best representation we can put together of what this will do on a dyno for you. And I can't think of many cases where we missed the mark.
Yeah.
And
we've had a customer who dynoed their Stage 1 E85 and got the exact same wheel horsepower that we reported and one more of a pound of torque.
Right. I mean, this is the like
which is kind of lucky.
We don't
because every car is different, but it also goes to show that, you know,
we put a lot of work into getting you know, as accurate a number as we can, but we don't, you know, we're not going to sit there and overlay it on anyone else's dyno because that doesn't mean anything.
So we can't speak for what any other tuner does. You know, we can say that there's some other tuning companies that do this really badly and really disingenuously. What our advertised figures, they're not to show what the peak or maximum your car will make. They're to show the average consistent result that any customer could expect. Our goal would be for most of our customers to make more power than that, and sometimes there's going to be customers that fall below that, but in a small, relatively tight range around that. And we see sometimes two exact cars from the factory that can make up to 10%, 15%.
We just went through this with the RS5 when we were trying to baseline the RS5s. We had 3 different RS5s on the dyno. They made 3 different powers.
Quite a bit different.
You know, and I guess luckily ours landed right in the middle. But you know, it's there's a lot of variance and a lot of factors that play with these.
Yeah, and we do have an upgrade program for switching tunes.
Yep.
And again, we're competitors to Unitronic. I like Unitronic. I think they're a professional company. I like the owners. I know them. I would consider us friends. I'd go out to dinner with them. But we've had lots of their customers upgrades our tuning, and the feedback has been unanimously very positive.
Somebody's actually asking if we've ever dynoed a competitor's file. We do not.
We really try not to focus.
The only time I ever really saw like competitor dynos on our dyno was when we used to do dyno day stuff years ago.
Stop.
But we haven't done that for quite a while. We focus on us. We calibrate these to what we feel is the correct power output, the correct method. So no,
And then just to button up this conversation real quick, making a lot of power is actually pretty easy. So we happen to be making the most power currently. I'm sure someone else will figure out how to do it soon. But what you also get that you don't typically get is the refinement, the reliability, the OEM quality, the keeping and integrating of safety features, just like the factory tunes have. So if you want to go out and compare all of our tunes, you will, for example, in the Dazzle world, right? It's really easy to make as much power as the stock turbo can produce on a stock Dazzle turbo. The hard part is everything else. So, the brute force maximum power, just turn the boost up as high as you can.
Single gear rip.
And that's easy. So the key is, to do everything else well. And unfortunately, there's no dyno for smoothness, for drivability, for reliability,
Repeatability.
for throttle response and control, for boost control.
Well, no,
all that stuff. There's no dyno for that.
We had the RS5 out at Thunder Hill last weekend, and the tuning wasn't power output related. It was throttle control, throttle refinement.
That's what we
come backing out of the throttle mid corner. Just a couple percent. You need to get a nice amount of control there on the pedal, and that's the stuff we're working on. We're at the track with these things. I'm going to say probably more than anyone else. Not because we're track junkies, but because that's really where we can refine these extremes and these extents of the power delivery.
Well, I know of one 3-lettered competitor of ours. They take their cars to the track for photo shoots.
Yeah.
So they drive around the track and take pretty photos, but they're not testing. They're not actually doing the engineering like we are.
No, we're generally laptop laden and smashing on these things all day.
All right. Would you say you are risking reliability with the power figures you are pushing? Genuinely curious if you have seen anything while testing your higher power tunes for the B9 T. I mean, I'll just say right off the bat, if you're concerned about reliability, imagine how concerned we are.
Yeah.
So you have one car, and if you damage the engine, it's going to be very bad. But we have hundreds and hundreds of B9 3.0T customers. I think we may be well into the thousands now. And imagine if, we blew 50 motors or 100 motors, which actually one of our competitors has done in the past. That's the kind of thing that could put a company out of business, and
or just destroy your reputation for.
It certainly hurt your reputation. So we are concerned about reliability even before you even know about it, because that's part of our engineering process and testing process. There have been cases on tunes we've developed where we have blown the factory motor during the tuning process, and we've learned from that and made adjustments from that. It cost us probably like $80,000 by the time it was all said and done.
So it's fun, yeah.
We try not to do that very often, but
and to be clear, we have not yet seen any weakness on the 3-liter.
For the B9 we have not seen any problem with any of our in-house cars or any of our customer cars.
Yep.
We maintain all the factory safety systems. They're all in place. And there's more than enough time on our tunes and these motors in various conditions, and hot and cold, you name it, that there is no reliability risk. Certainly not that we know of.
Yep.
And if the power figures we are pushing are safe.
If anything seems sketchy, we're not going to release it.
Yeah.
Yeah, to clarify, any failure we've had has been on an internal production file, not anything.
Right. On any of the issues we're talking about here has been on development.
I mean, we still where this has been talk about this openly is the biggest area we've had the biggest application is in the B8 3.0T world. So with our Dazzle tuning, with our B9 3.0 tuning, zero even cases or incidents of even anyone accusing us of anything.
Yeah.
In the B8 3.0T world, those motors are aging and they're producing a ton of power, and the systems are being pushed, more than double what the factory rated. And there have been lots of blown motors. Now, there's been blown motors on stock tunes, there's been blown motors on competitor tunes, and we've had blown motors on our tunes. Again, for B8 3.0T. Last year, we compiled a list of about 15 customers who had problems, which was like all of them that we could
find. At the time. Yep.
And we went through and analyzed every single one of those cases. In one case, we even paid to ship the customer's motor here.
Yep,
in every case, we were able to determine the root cause of failure, and it was nothing related to our products or tuning.
Yep. Yeah, and it was a gamut of things. We talk about it a lot. It was fuel injectors. It was intercooler pores leaking. It was high pressure fuel pump installation issues.
Yeah.
It was
high flow cats,
catless failures.
Cats melting.
People were continuing to drive on with a compromised.
So we created a detailed root cause analysis for every one of those, and I think it was 14 or 15 cases. And again, none were related to our tuning. We were being accused of it, and subsequently we made no changes to any of our tuning. And that whole thing's kind of like blown over.
Yeah, now it's onto the cylinder 5 called D8 thing. And again, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and it's one of these things like there's
the piston ring.
Well, yeah, exactly. These are highly strung setups on some of these that are having issues. And the other issue on B8 in particular, the 3-liter supercharged motor, is we don't necessarily have control over what you're running for pulley ratios. We allow for a fairly high pulley ratio in that tune. We could, I guess, kneecap it and force you to run a lower pulley ratio. But, that's not, I think, what the market's looking for. It's kind of one of those things, though, if you're going to run a crazy pulley ratio and maybe have questionable supporting mods or, some other component failing, it doesn't take much.
Bottom line, B8 on B8 3.0T, there are maintenance
aging
issues.
Yeah.
So you need to do your maintenance. You need to replace the injectors. If you're going to start tuning a motor, I would seriously recommend inspecting the cooling system, pressure test the intercoolers, replace them if you can, and then replace your injectors.
Replacing the injectors is
and then check your cats. Make sure they're healthy, that they're not melted. Factory calic converters on the B8 3.0T just need to be replaced a lot more often. And then start tuning. On B9 3.0T, just stick to our product recommendations. Stay within our product universe, and you won't have any problems.
Thus far, we've had no issues like that.
Would B9 3.0T benefit from a catch can? Yes. We are developing a catch can kit for that, and we will be releasing it probably by the summer. We have noticed oil evacuating the crankcase on those motors, RS5 as well. And so our catch can will catch that and keep it out of the intake system. Is there going to be two-step on the B9 S4 S5? Definitely something we're working on.
Yeah, there will be.
ALC.
So yeah, we'll have our advanced launch control to allow you to kind of adjust to the launch RPM for optimal conditions.
Do you guys have a solution for the low pressure fuel pump on the B8? We do. It's our surge tank, fuel pump surge tank, and we will be releasing a universal kit, which will give you kind of all the basic parts you need, and then you'll just have to install it.
Initially, it's going to be for the B8.5 only. There would need to be some firmware changes or calibration changes for the B8s, just because they have a different intake pump control system. Okay. And it's just different frequency on the PWM signal that needs to be accounted for. So initially, it'll be a B8.5, and then we'll likely get it working for B8 as well.
Someone's asking, do we have a high pressure fuel pump solution for the B8.5 3.0T?
Yep.
We do have
high pressure pump. We are definitely doing.
It's a high pressure piston upgrade. It should be here anytime.
Yep.
4.0T motor mount updates. We're just still waiting for the shipment to come in, but some good news. We have also tooled up for our motorsport mount version, and it looks very promising. The V8 4.0T is a smooth, balanced motor. And so the motorsport version should actually be a good option. We will be testing it, and we will report on the NVH options. But that will be kind of like a really well priced, really bulletproof motor mount option.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that one at all. I mean,
Yeah, I
we've
think
basically
it'll be really
we've
nice.
got those mounts essentially in the S4.0 T right now,
Yeah,
and
we do.
yeah, and there's no real
Oh,
NVH issues because
I
that's
should go
Yep.
drive that.
Yep.
Have you noticed? How's the NVH?
There's some NVH, but it's really not bad.
it's really not
especially
bad. I think those are like the
I think-
track, like
It's the track
all out
yeah.
setup. Yeah.
Oh, those are track.
Yeah.
We should stick some street density.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some street sports. What are your highest volume generating states in the U.S.? Curious what states have the most modified Audis. So we do a lot of business in California just because we're here. California does have a lot of European cars in general.
Mhm.
There is quite a few Quattros and Audis in California. But definitely like the Eastern Board, the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, New England has tons of Audis. We do a lot of business out there. Much less in the Midwest.
Yeah.
In general, the South isn't very good.
Colorado's
Very busy.
on
Colorado,
the higher side because of the conditions there. It's
Minnesota.
kind of a metro area.
Minnesota, we have do a lot of business up there as well. But yeah, and then kind of the Rust Belt, Ohio and Indiana, and through there. And those aren't real like. I mean, I've spent quite a bit of time in Idaho and Ohio and Indiana, and there's a lot of American cars out there.
Yeah.
But because of the snow, you do get some decent, Audi Quattro as well. But the epicenter of Audi tuning in the U.S. is definitely the Northeast. And if you go to like, I don't know, 100-mile radius around New York City, you will see that's probably it in the U.S. New Jersey as well, lots, and if you go on our dealer locator, you just see all the dealers. So you can kind of tell just from where the dealers are in the U.S. When will we see the TTE 710 drop for the B9s? Excited to see pricing on it. We don't have a release date, but not too far off.
Testing's going really well on it.
Our goal would be in the next few months to release. Certainly the tuning, and I think a lot of people already may have the hardware.
Yeah.
But we will add that to our website and offer that for sale as well. Our pricing will be consistent with TTEs as far as the hardware goes.
For the tuning, I honestly don't know what the other pricing is out there.
We'll have to figure out what the tuning is, and then there'll be an up.
Definitely boutique tuners, right?
Yeah.
Or something. So
But there'll be an upgrade path for existing customers.
Yep.
And then-
It'll be if you're already on our software, it'll be a pretty minimal scheme of things.
We haven't decided exactly what, but yeah, it needs to be more than like $50.
No, yeah, I'm just saying you don't have to buy a whole. You
won't have to buy the whole
You're
thing.
in our ecosystem.
You'll get credit.
You get incremental change to the file.
Yeah. Will there be an update to B9 3.0 T-Tunes to address some bugs?
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yep, that's something we're cranking on. We're hoping to have things kind of buttoned up this week with that.
It'll be called revision 2.1.
Our 2. I got a list. So yes, 2.1.
Yeah, something like that. Any brake fluid temperature limit exceeded warnings when on track with a B9 S4. A few members have error flagged in the ABS ECU with VCDS.
I can't remember honestly. Maybe it was just like a soft code or something that wasn't tripping on the dash, but I don't think we had any like brake warnings or issues on the actual
some
dash.
folks are getting limp modes in the UK with this. I've only seen it out of the UK.
Maybe they have some different coding than on the ABS
The
modules.
car is identifying that brake fluid is too hot.
Correct. It throws itself into a limp.
Crazy.
No, we have not seen that here. So I don't know.
And Lord knows we've tried.
Yes, we have certainly gone.
We've overheated the brakes and everything.
Yeah, we've boiled fluid. We've cooked pads.
Will the B9 platform surpass the B8.5s in terms of tuning power? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about this. We talk about this almost weekly, but I mean, yeah, the power adder option being a turbo, in a hot V on the motor, it's kind of destined to be more potential.
I mean, they're two very different applications simply because one has a supercharger, which is very difficult and expensive to replace, and the other has a turbo, which is very easy to replace. And then, as we've discussed before, superchargers create a very linear power gain based on crankshaft rotation speed. So the amount of power that gets added to the motor is linear with RPM. It's literally a straight line. The boost curve is the straight linear line. It's y equals mx plus b. On a turbo, you have the turbo's ability to produce boost based on exhaust flow, and that's very nonlinear. And motors happen to produce tremendous amount of exhaust flow at the torque peak. So typically, this is at a lower RPM, and you get this huge surge of torque and power at the torque peak, thanks to the turbo utilizing all that exhaust energy. Despite the crankshaft spinning relatively slow, the turbo can spin very fast.
And that's why the turbo's kind of its own like self-fulfilling prophecy for boost.
Yeah.
The more the
It
turbo's
feeds itself.
giving itself
Yeah.
more energy essentially. So
I mean, it is literally witchcraft.
right. So yeah, that's why you can sit at 1 RPM, hit the gas, and if you were on a dyno or something where you can hold that RPM, your power number is not going to be one number. It's going to climb for a while until the boost levels out.
Okay, so how about this? The first person to name the trade-off that you make between this amazing thing about turbos and superchargers gets a free T-shirt.
There you go.
So, because we talk about this all the time about
B8
trade-off
versus B9.
There is no free lunch, right? So, but there's this one thing that you give up in the B9 that you have in the B8 in spades, and that's the trade-off. But yeah, I mean, if you want to make 800 horsepower, it's probably never going to happen in a B8
Supercharged on a
with a supercharged motor. This year we will have many B9s making that type of power.
Yep.
And it's literally a couple thousand, $3,000-$4,000, a couple bolts, slap a tune on there, and you can pretty much make as much power as you want, assuming that you don't throw a rod up the side.
Yeah, and you've got fueling for it and that kind of thing. But I mean, it's just so much simpler to kind of get more air into the motor.
Mm-hmm. My B9 S4 is stage 1 with your P34 intake. Nice choice. Going to stage 2 TCU soon. My car has the factory sport diff. How does your ECU or TCU perform differently, if at all, on cars equipped with the sport diff?
Nope, works fine. Ours is a sport diff as well.
Yeah. So it's the sport diff kind of does its own thing.
Yeah.
And the sport diff's job is to divvy the power between the left and right tires and give whatever tire that has the most traction the most power or torque.
Yeah, the sport diff interacts much more with the ABS unit than it does with the ECU and TCU. It does take input from like driver input, so steering wheel and pedal positions. It does use torque numbers and whatnot from the ECU and TCU, but it's not nearly as much information as what it's dealing with from the ABS system as far as yaw, overall power delivery, vehicle dynamics, that kind of thing.
But it's pretty much its own standalone thing.
We've never had an issue with ours. We track the crap out of it.
Yeah, no, it's a really great system. I wish Audi would have started doing that in like the early 80s, but unfortunately.
You think you would have had a computer the size of the trunk to try and drive the thing.
Any news on fueling options and tunes for the ORT fuel pump on the B9 3.0T? Yes, we have been testing and tuning with these. There's now several.
Yeah, all of a sudden we're flush with options.
Yeah.
All of these high pressure pumps. So there's ORT, there's APR, there's another one.
VIS.
VIS, I think is working again. They're all roughly the same dimensions. So
yeah. But yeah, it's adding the fuel that we need to make more power and torque, especially at lower RPMs.
Yep. So it's mostly at that torque peak. But yeah, we are working on that. We'll have basically 1+ and 2+ files out for the stock turbo, and then obviously the hybrid stuff coming along as well.
Is a stage 2 TCU tune needed for B8.5 S4 DSG? No.
Nope.
It's the TCU tunes for the B8 and B9 are not staged as far as the TCUs don't support the ECU stage. They're standalone upgrades. You could do our TCU flash on a stock motor.
You got to watch the rev limit stuff. We usually will have a stock rev limiter file up as well, but it's
don't do it.
It's almost it's great. It does drive nicer. But
don't do it. Obviously, do it with a tune, but just to make the point that it's
Yep.
now on some of the older like 2.0T tunes, you needed staged TCUs to give more clamping force. I think that's what some of
well, even we never really stuck to that except for the really old stuff, and that was more of a market
Like, I
decision.
feel
than
like the
anything.
A3 was like
We did. That was much more of a market decision. There's some crazy extents where if you've got like a turbo swapped VR6, we did have some specific software to handle that because those TCUs they never knew about those kind of power levels. But for the most part, like everything like MQB Air and up, we basically have one TCU file, and even the B9, we basically have one TCU file that's a real full-fledged file. The other file is essentially just a torque unlock. So yeah, we try our best to, similar to what we do the ECU, is get the TCU mapped out in a way that is properly mapped for the amount of power we're for the foreseeable future at least, we're intending to make. And, as long as all your torque numbers and your calculations are correct going between the ECU and TCU,
Yeah.
you rarely need to change them. Change the TCU.
More RS4 S6 parts would be awesome. Boy, you just missed it by like 10, 12 years. Coilovers and other suspension components would be good because there's nothing out there. Yeah, I heard recently that Apical stopped making their rear sway bar, which is the only option on the market. I guess the fact that they stopped making it is
They're like a
is
niche of a
teaching.
niche supplier
Yeah.
for these kind of vehicles.
But I think Two Bennett's the only show in town, unless you can get some like Euro spec KW stuff. In Europe, there's more support for those cars. But wow, Two Bennett has a new website.
It looks like they updated.
They got rid of their like
It doesn't
their
mean
web
I can-
1.0
It
HTML.
doesn't mean I can find the car I'm looking for here. Hold on.
I mean, we do good sway bars, but the problem with the RS4 is there's no. Most of the cars don't have a factory rear sway bar.
Wow,
So
no, their website still.
it still links to the old one.
No, it's just as bad as the.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the RS4
Yeah.
is such a unique. You want to talk about a compromised or a suspension made of compromise?
But they do still. They've got all that stuff.
Yeah, they've still got. So yeah, Two Bennett's got coilovers, and they have a sweep.
No, they do. It's like $4,000, and you have to call them, and they'll be happy to sell you one. But yeah, I think that ship sailed. Sorry, man.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's a reason that all of these companies are dropping support. Is it's costing them far more to make and inventory these parts than.
And there's just not that many people that want to pay money for this, and we started seeing this, I'd say at least 5 years ago, where the market got really, really cheap. They were like, more about doing DIY stuff, and it just, we had to move on. So
Yeah,
some of those customers are really.
What is that? But we had a number of our products that were just like knocked off, as cheap as could be, and started floating around out there. Then obviously we can't support our product then if nobody's buying it. So our stuff just kind of withers away.
Yep. B9 S4, considering your stage 1, if I put a high flow cat or catless downpipe on, will the tune clear the check engine light? And or will the tune run with an aftermarket cat? EPL does not clear the check engine light. So our stage 2 tuning, which is designed for racing use only,
Yes.
in sanctioned racing, does clear the check engine light.
It will not mark the catalyst as passed. It will not do anything. Emissions
The catalyst is just simply marked as uninstalled.
Yep.
So anyone that plugs into the car will immediately see that there is no catalytic converter and that the emission system has been compromised.
which shouldn't matter because this is racing stuff only.
Yeah, and if you're racing, then like Nate said, it's totally fine. It's not designed for use on the street. It's not designed for use on emissions controlled vehicles. And even if you just like made a racetrack at your house in the country, unless it's a sanctioned racing event, it's still not legal because the EPA regulates off-road as well. So tractors and dirt bikes all have emissions regulations.
My
So there's
dirt
actually
bike was emissions regulated.
there's no such thing as off-road use. If you build a road on your private property and you drive something on it, the EPA can regulate you under the Clean Air Act, and it's a law. It's the same as like robbing the bank or
Yeah,
something.
you've got no way to keep the air that you're altering on your property.
So we do currently do that again for racing use, and it will turn off the light so that while you're racing, you don't have to be annoyed by this light.
Yeah, and it's more one of those things, right? If you're on track, you need to know if there's a legit problem or not. Or just have this constant,
Like
diagnostic.
when your
error.
check engine light comes on, you want to.
There should be a reason for it. Yeah.
Should we do the this is a cool product we just released this week.
Unfit yourself.
Yes.
Do the peel.
So this is our new ZTF-R01 fully forged 20-inch wheel. What is it? Oh, sorry. The ZTF-R01. We have a new naming convention for these. This is a 20 by 10. So this ET30. So this fits nicely on like SQ5s, RS5s, A7, S7s, RS7s. But this is
Some dude's S5.
pretty big boy. We actually make it an even bigger wheel than this.
Yeah, we have 11.2.
A 21 by 11.2. So really cool and pretty light. I mean, I'm really strong, but still,
It's ripped.
it's a pretty light wheel.
Not strong.
Imagine trying to pick a factory wheel up.
Nick just fell.
Oh my god. I don't know what the official weight is on this, but it's substantially lighter than whatever you'd be replaced.
3 pounds or something.
Yeah, they're like 23 pounds or something like that.
Silver coming.
Oh, so we currently have our anthracite, and a hyper silver is coming in about a month. These wheels are not cheap, but they're the best. They're fully forged.
It's a forged 10 by 20 by 10.
Yeah, I'm really happy with these wheels. I'm proud to put my name, to put 024 Motorsports name on it.
We beat the crap out of these on track too.
I've heard of no bent or damaged wheels. Someone did buy one wheel recently, so I don't know.
Spare.
Maybe they got in a car accident.
Rip wrap.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mark
But-
definitely curb rashed the shit out of one set.
So anyways, those are in stock on our website. If you're looking for the best quality wheel you can get on the market, this is it. And as a bonus, the center caps don't fall out if you go on track.
God, don't miss those days.
Let's see. Someone was asking about general rule of thumbs. As a general rule of thumb, what are acceptable duty cycles in terms of percentage for a stock high pressure fuel pump and a low pressure fuel pump for the B8? Should we be looking to upgrade when things creep up in a certain percentage, like 85 or 90%?
It's generally the low pressure pump we will run pretty much maxed out on.
Yeah, there's no reason.
There's no reason not to. I mean, ye olden days when the fuel pumps were literally controlled by a relay,
It was 0.
100% all the time. So I mean, we will ask for a lot on the low pressure side, maybe more than what your stock pump can deliver. The key there is your high pressure pump able to, then control the amount of fuel it needs. If your high pressure pump is sitting there pinned at 100%, that's when you get concerned. That generally means you're not able to deliver the amount of fuel you need for that setup. Now, I mean, 85, 90%, if it's, hovering there, but it's maintaining, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's going to depend on what map you're on and what kind of fuel you've got. But if it's pegged and your fuel demand isn't keeping up with your requested, then that's when things are need to be addressed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, low pressure pump duty cycles, I wouldn't worry about it getting maxed out. We do request a lot from it, just to help supplement what the high pressure can do.
Rebuilds versus full assembly high pressure fuel pump for 3.2. Why would one go with fully assembled versus rebuild? Well, it's not rebuild. You're just simply swapping out
It's an upgrade.
the fuel pump internals. It's simple.
It's two parts of the pump. It doesn't address anything else. So if you've got an issue with the metering valve in the pump, if you've got some other, issue or age-related concern of the pump, a new pump's not a bad idea. It's literally just one moving part that gets upgraded to the larger diameter.
You're going to pay typically a lot more for a full assembly, sometimes 4 times more because you're getting a whole nother fuel pump. I'd say probably 90+% of all high pressure fuel pump upgrades in the world are just simply the piston upgrade solutions. Much, much less are these fully assembled options. Our goal is to offer both. We'll do a full assembly in the future, but for the time being, we could bring a piston to market for like $350, and it gives you everything you need that $1,000 fully assembled pump does. And these are relatively new applications that don't need to be rebuilt.
Yep.
and even nobody's rebuilding it. From what I understand, they're just using new pumps.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, they're not getting a fully rebuilt anything. It's just a new pump off the shelf with the stock piston tossed out and the aftermarket piston put in.
Has anyone found the limits on the stock piston rods bottom end for a B9S4? Not that I know. And I don't think there's going to be a limit for the pistons. Practically speaking, the pistons.
No, I mean,
We'll do pretty much anything that's needed.
yeah, I've seen some freak accidents out there, on stock motors, but again, that's nothing that I would consider to be a power related thing.
But the rods will start bending at some point. We've seen that in Daza. We've seen that in 270s. Going back to 180s.
The physics still works, yeah.
Even the old AAN and 7As. When you bend a rod. But what we've seen in Dazas is you can get a very slight bend in the rod. It's almost imperceptible to the eye. But what happens is that bend now puts a load or a force on the piston wrist pin. And so it causes the piston to not be centered in the bore. It could put additional load on the rings and the piston skirt. But what ultimately ends up happening is the wrist pin, which is held in through the forged bosses in the pistons, one of those will typically fail. Often there's a clip that holds the pin in, and that excessive force will pop the pin out. Sometimes there's like a little ringland that holds that in. That pops out, scores the cylinder walls, and then just everything kind of destroys itself. And then we actually had a failure where a rod came out of our motor through a transmission. It basically went through the entire car and totaled the entire car.
It did anything that and that's just luck of the draw.
Yeah.
And that was in our on track testing.
And this was like a very, very tortured
Yeah, that was
car that's seen everything.
That motor had been through everything.
That was the original tuning mule for that.
Yeah, but yeah, we lost the farm on that one. That was the rod decided to put little holes in everything.
But I've seen that failure on Dazas from every other tuner.
Yeah, everyone's found the limit on that.
And that's because those tunes are just they're right at the ragged edge, and you can actually produce that much torque on the stock.
Yeah, the stock turbo on those is very capable of pushing rods through the motor if you want.
Will you be coming out with other wheel designs? In the future, we will do different designs. We don't have any current plans for that. So our current design is kind of known as the ZTF-R01. Now we've had it in a forged version, which is now known as the R01, and then we are bringing out a line of flow formed wheels that we hope to have out by like the summer. Now there's still the ZTF-R01 design, but they're a flow formed wheel, so they're a little heavier and not as strong as the fully forged wheels, but they'll be substantially less expensive because they will be light pressure cast. Eventually, when we feel the need, we will do a ZTF-02, ZTF-02, which will have a different look to it. But again, we're still kind of rolling out the ZTF-01. And, we'll see how that goes this year. Our goal is to continue to build our wheel line and our wheel presence in the market. And our take is not just wheels that are pretty or look a certain way, but actually perfectly fitting, excellently performing, strong wheels that allow optimal tires to be put on the car. And that also look good. But I was on a bike ride yesterday in Livermore, and an RS3 pulled up next to me. I was sitting at the light waiting for the light to turn, and I had ZTF R01s on it. It was pretty cool. So,
Was it Sam?
no, I don't think he has. He needs them though. All right, we got 2 more minutes. What amount of knock is getting to be too much? Around 3, 4, 5. How much knock is the don't go further, shut it down? There's an issue type of number for
Yeah,
3.3.
That's such a nuanced answer that it's hard to generalize. But I'm going to say like on 91, 3, 4, 5 is pretty normal, and it'll be scattered across different cylinders. It depends on your fuel quality, and there's only so much you can do with it. I don't like to see any more than 4 or 5, generally speaking. That said, you might have a noisy cylinder here and there, but if you're across the board pulling like 6, 7, 8, 9, that's where I'd start concerned there. Should be far less to basically zero on most of the ethanol tunes. So
Yeah.
it's a tough answer to give you one, or tough thing to give you one answer for. But yeah, 3, 4, 5, I wouldn't worry too much at all.
One last question. When you mentioned in a previous stream the coolant and oil systems are linked together, were you just talking about B9.5
Nope.
No. So anytime your car has an oil cooler or heat exchanger that coolant runs through it, then the two systems are linked thermally.
And that's more so. I mean, they're obviously linked anyway through the cylinder head and the block and all the stuff that the coolant
it's a
pumps
much
through.
less direct link.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a direct exchange.
Yeah, but when your car has a device that efficiently transfers heat between one system and another, you have a thermal connect. Now, obviously, the oil and coolant don't mix liquid to liquid or anything like that. But everything in your car is thermally linked. Technically, the heat of your motor warms you up, So there's this very loose link there. But now, if you wore a suit and the engine coolant circulated around your body, that would be a direct link, and you would die. So,
Called sous vide.
yeah, you would cook to death, nice and slow. Okay, on that bombshell, we'll let you guys go, and
But yeah,
see you next week.
oil and coolant have been linked since
Yeah.
early 90s probably on a number of cars.
Yeah, and you can tell because it looks like a little intercooler brick with oil and coolant lines hooked up to it.
Yep.
But older VWs actually had it around the oil underneath the oil filter.
Yeah, it's a tiny little sandwich
Audi's
plate.
had that too. All right, cheers. See you guys next week.